Alright everyone, welcome back to another video of Salesforce Makes Sense, and in this video we are going to continue our journey of Apex Developer Masterclass, and we'll be looking forward to understanding and learning about collections. Right now, before we do this, I left the last session with this questionnaire, right? And for those of you who have been able to answer this, that's great, but let's evaluate this so that we can see what your answers were and what are the correct answers. Okay, so true and true will always be true. True and false will be false. False and true will be false. False and false will also be false. True or true is always true. True or false is true. False or true is again true. False or false is false. True and not true will basically be true and false. So true and false will basically be false. Right? False and not false. Not false is true. So false or true will basically be true. False or true and false. So true and false is within the bracket, so this will be prioritized. So this will basically become false, or true and false is false, which will evaluate to false. And finally, true and this entire statement, right? Let's just break it down. Let's say true and what will be in the bracket? True or false or not true. So you don't even have to worry about anything. If one of the statement is true, this will always be true. Correct? So you don't have to worry about anything else. And false or true. So if one is false, you have to see at the other one. If it is an or, it is true. So that means this will also be true. Right? So what is true and true and true? It is true. Perfect. So this is the result of our assignment, and I hope you were able to figure this out on your own. If not, I hope this made sense, right? Awesome. So now we'll move on to understanding collections. So this is one very crucial part of Apex development that you need to know, you need to understand, and you should be able to use it effectively at places, right? So what are collections? The word collection means a set of things, right? Or a list of things, or a accumulation of certain things, right? And that's exactly what collections are. Now, to ensure that you're able to set collections, Salesforce provides you three primary collection types. The first one being lists, the second one being sets, and the third one being maps. So we'll look at each one of them one by one. First one is list. So how do you say that, I have a collection? How do you say I have a collection of Pokemon cards, right? I have a collection of Jenga anime series. I have a collection of self-help books. How do you say that? That means you have a certain element and you have more than one item of it, right? So you have more than one item of it and you have multiple items. So that's where you say that, okay, this is a list of items that I hold, or that is a collection I have, right? I have a collection of good travel photos. I have a collection of, good songs. What is common here? Collection of same type of elements is basically what is a list. Okay, and list is always ordered. Now what does that mean? List is always ordered. It means it will always hold the sequence in which the data has been inserted. So if you took the first photo in India, the second photo in Dubai, the third photo in UK, this order will be maintained when you want to access your list, right? It is like a photo album. The first photo will always be in the first page, the second photo will always be in the second page. Make sense? List can hold duplicate values. So you can go to India, you can go to Dubai, you can go to UK, and then you can again come back to Dubai, you can then go to India, meaning the list or your photographs can have the same, you can have photos from the same place. They can be multiple photos. So is that allowed in a list? Yes, it is allowed. Okay, and the first index position is always 0. So in programming language, things don't start with 1, things start with 0. So 0 is the first index you'll always find. We'll understand what this index position means and how to use it, but just understand that the position or the first photograph will not be the first photograph, it would be the 0th photograph in terms of technical programming language. Okay, so that would be the 0th item, then you would have the first item, then you would have the second item. Okay, so let's say we are saying that you have 6 photos. What is the index of the 6 photos? It is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, great. Let's jump into Salesforce and let's start writing our first collection. Let's create a list and we'll see how it looks like. I'll just save this file here and I'll create a new one. New Apex class, let's call it collections in Apex. All right, I'll just create a dummy method for now. I'll just save it. So here we'll want to define a list. So how do we define normal variables? We say integer I equals 1. We say string my name equals Himanshu, right? Similarly, you'll have to define a list. So list can be defined like this. What did I do? I need the name of a list similar to how I declare my variables. I need a name of a variable, correct? So I'll call it my favorite books. All right. And since we are doing this like integer string as data type, that the way you define a list is you use the list keyword and you put this angular brackets here. Okay, and within the angular bracket, you'll have to tell the system what kind of data would this list hold. Will it store numbers? If yes, okay, this would be a type of integer. Will it store strings? So it would be a list of strings. So this is how you define it. All right, so list of the data type with the variable name basically. So now you have a list. Okay, again, you can choose to initialize it with doing an instantiation. Now understand, see what we did here? We did an instantiation. Okay, so we use the new keyword and we instantiated our list, which means we have allocated some memory in the heap so that Salesforce understands, okay, there is a variable that's coming in for us, my favorite books, and it will hold some set of string values. That is what it means. Okay, so that's one way of defining it. Now, if you want to store a set of values in it, what kind of values can you store here? You can only store text values or string literals. Correct? If you had to create a list of integers, you would create it like this, my favorite numbers. And I'll encourage you guys to try this on your own. Write every line that I'm typing and try to see the successful compilation, try to see the errors and try to fix it on your own. That will build confidence. Okay. How would you create a list of Boolean? More like checkboxes. My thoughts. Can you create a list of S objects? Yes, you can create account records. So this would be a list of account records that you would want to store. Correct? So this is how you have declared and defined your list variables. Now is the time when you want to enter values inside it, right? So first of all, let's use the my favorite books. If you want to, let's say my favorite books are, let's say the monk who sold his Ferrari. Then I have the 5 a.m. club. Then I have the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. And then let's say I have Ikigai. These are the 4 books which are my favorite books. All right. So how do I store this on my favorite books list variable? So if I know the values, what I can do is I can simply take them and I can put them here. Instead of instantiating, I can directly use curly braces and I can put them comma separated within single quotes. Why single quotes? Because this is a string type. Correct? So if I were to copy this entire line, which is comma separated string values, paste it here, and I click on save, this should save up fine. It's taking some time. Yeah, all good. So you see, what have I done? I have told the system that I have a variable that's called my favorite books and it holds 4 different book names which are of string type. If I had to do this for my favorite numbers, would I create it like this? If I try to save it, let's see what happens. I'm getting a error. What is the error? There's a problem. It says initial expression is of incorrect type, expected integer but was string. So what you have essentially done is you have created a list variable of type integer, but you are storing string values in it. Again, remember our very first sessions, Apex is strongly typed. You have to ensure that the data type you are asking the system to create for you, you have to add those kind of values only. So you've told the system that I want a list of integer type. So you have to ensure that you put in integer, which are numbers. And just when you do that and you try to save this particular list assignment, it will save a fine. Line number 6 will not have any error anymore. Okay. What about Boolean flags? What you can do is you can store true and false. Correct? So I'll store true and false. Let's say these are the two values I want to store. All right. And if I have an account record, I can store an account record here by putting it here. So this is more like, let's say you had a variable that's called account. I instantiate my account and I can simply use my account variable and I can put it here. So this becomes a list of account records which contains only one account, which is this account right here. Okay, great. So this was about defining and declaring our list variables. But most of the times you'll not be doing it this way, correct? Because you'll have to add values to it as and when you have a value. So what we'll do is I'll show you some methods that list has. Okay, now if I, let's say, want to say my favorite books, I want to add a new book to it. So what I'll do is I'll take the variable name, use the dot operator and use the add method. Okay, so I'm using a method using the dot operator. So I'll say add, and what do I want to add? I want to add a string value again, correct? So I'll say the 4 agreements. This is another book I like. I'll say save. Okay, let's try to save it. Saved up fine. Let's say I want to add another favorite number in the my favorite numbers list. So what will I do? My favorite numbers dot add, and let's say I want to add 33 again. I'll say save. Is it giving me an error? No, that means it is able to hold duplicate values. See, 33 and 33. Correct? Let's look at our keynote. List is a collection of elements. We have understood that. Collection is always of the same type. Can I put Boolean flag here? No. Can I put string here? No. It has to be of same type. 1, 2, 33, 327 are all of integer type. You cannot mix and match. List is always ordered. So let me quickly show you. System.debug. I want to debug my favorite numbers. Okay. And let's try to execute this method. So I'll say collections in Apex dot handle list collections. And there are no parameters here, so I'll get rid of everything that's inside and I'll just call the method and I'll say execute and open log. So let's see what happens in line 17, which is our debug log. So you see 1, 2, 33, 327 and 33, meaning the way it has been ordered, the way it has been put, the same way it has returned the value. It is not changing its order automatically. It's not assigning itself as in ascending order or descending order or any random order. No, it's basically following the way you have assigned numbers. That's it. Will this be true for the string? Yes, it will be true for the string as well. So if I say my favorite books are, it will be on the same order the way we have added them. The monk will be the first one. The 4 agreements would be the last one. Let's say execute. Let's say debug only. The monk is the first one. The 4 agreements is the last one. All right. And if you notice, see how it is returning you the response. It is showing you all the elements in the list, comma separated. And that's how a list holds values and shows the values. Okay, list can hold duplicate values. We just checked that 33 was added twice. It did not give me any error and it was able to save it with both the numbers. All right. And the first index position is always 0. So now let's understand the index position. If I want to access this particular element from my collection, how do I access it? I can say my favorite books dot get, I can say the index number. So based on what I just said, the index starts from 0. That means 0th element is this particular element. This would be the first element. So if I say my favorite books dot get 1, this is the index I'm trying to mention here. So we saw the add method, now we are seeing the get method. What does get method do? If you pass the index, it will return whatever is present on that index. Let's say save and we'll debug. Book in the first index is, let's say save. So I hope you are able to understand system.debug statements, right? You can now use the debug statement for anything. I'll have to add a bracket here, save. So what you can do is you can either debug a string entirely, or if you want to concatenate it with any values that you have, you can just use the plus sign and you can add your value. So what I did is I basically said book in the first index is, and then plus whatever I want to check. So I'm checking the variable that I have my favorite books dot get index 1. So what should this return? This should return 5am club. Let's quickly verify. So we should see 2 or 3 logs, right? The very last log is what we are interested in. You see, book in the first index is 5am club. All right. So tell me this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 values. What would be the book in the fourth index? The fourth index would be the 4 agreements. All right. Even though it is on the fifth position, but it starts from 0. So this is in 0. This is in 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. Okay, so just understand that, okay, Salesforce is creating a space for my list variable, so it starts with 0. That's it. It starts with 0 and it takes you until the list variables are there. Okay, another method that I want you to know is, I want to know how many books are my favorite books, right? The count of the books that are my favorite. What do? I use the variable and I say dot size. So dot size is another method available. It does not take any parameters and it will return me the number of books that are my favorite, which is the size of the list. Okay, so whenever you want the size of the list, you can use dot size. My book count is, and I'll just leave it as is and I'll remove all the previous logs. So what should be the size? Tell me. The index starts from 0 and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 books here, and I have added one more book here, 5. But the index starts from 0. So what should be my book size? Total size? The total size should still be 5 because the elements are 5. It's just that the index starts from 0. The book count will always be 5. All right, let's quickly verify that. Execute. Debug. The book count is 5. All right. So we talked about the add method, we talked about the size method, we talked about the get method. So you have very easily understood 3 different methods of the list collection. All right. If you want to look at more of these functions, you can always go to the list class that you have in the Apex developer guide from Salesforce, Apex reference guide. You can simply type list collections in Apex and you'll land in this page. Okay. So if you notice, these are all the methods that you get. All right. I'll quickly show you 1 or 2 more methods. All right. So we talked about size, correct? We talked about get. Where is get? Here. We'll talk about isEmpty. Let's do isEmpty now. Okay. So let me create one more variable, my favorite drink. This would be of type string. And it currently does not have any values. So that's why it's just instantiated with the round brackets. Okay, no values are inside. What I want to do is now, I want to check whether the list I have created is empty or not. How do I do that? I simply say system.debug. This is just for debugging, okay? Just to show you. Is my list empty? How do I check that? I check that by saying my favorite books dot is empty. So dot is empty is my method. Again, it does not take any parameters. Okay. And let's check for the other variable, my favorite books. Instead of this, I'll put my favorite drinks. Okay, I want to check whether this list is empty or not. Let's save. So what this will return is either true or false. Okay, let's give it a try. According to you, what should be the first flag? It should be true. It should be false because it is not empty. So is empty will return true if the list is empty. But is the list empty? My favorite books? No, it has values. So this will return false. And this will return true because this list is empty. There's no value inside it. So I'll say execute. Let's see the debug log. I'll click on debug only. So you see the first one is false, the second one is true. All right. You can check it like this also. See, just apply a bit of more brains. If you don't know the isEmpty method, can you say my favbooks dot size equal to 0? If you say equal to 0, if a list is empty, what would be the size of the list? It would be 0. So you can always check it like this also. So let's check this for the two variables. The first one should be false, the second one should be true. Correct? Because my favbooks.size is 5 and my favdrinks.size is 0 because there's no element here. Let's save it. And I hope you are trying this on your own also, right? Just give these things a try. Your hands will start writing this code faster and it will help you in future. Let's execute. Let's see. So you see the first one is false, the second one is true. So just another way of seeing whether your list is empty or not. Okay. Let's look at one more method. So I have my thoughts, correct? Let me quickly debug and put what are my thoughts. My thoughts are true and false, weird thoughts. So my thoughts are, and I'll say save. Let's get rid of the previous debug logs, save. So what should this print? This should print the values, true and false, two values, correct? Let's execute it. My thoughts are, and let's see what the debug log shows. True and false, two values are there. Okay, let's say I want to clear my thoughts. Yeah, I want to clear my thoughts. So I can simply use the clear method, as simple as that. So I'll say my thoughts dot clear. So now I'm feeling a bit fresh. Let's see what are my thoughts after clearing my head. I'll just say my thoughts before and my thoughts after. So before clearing my head and after clearing my head, let's see what are my thoughts. Let's say execute. Debug only. You see, it was true and false and then it was cleared, which means all the elements were removed. So if you want to get all your elements removed from a list, you can use the clear method. All right, let's look at one more method, index of. So I have this my favorite books, correct? So let's say I want to search a particular key. I want to search a particular element in my list. How do I do that? I can say index of. All right, and I'll say the index of 5 a.m. club. I'm just referring which element I want to search. Okay, I'll say system.debug. 5 a.m. club is placed at, and I'll say save. I'll get rid of these debug logs and save. So I want to see whether 5 a.m. club is part of my list or not. If it is part of my list, it will give me the index. Okay. How does it give it? Let's see. Execute. Let's see the debug log. Debug only. So it's saying 5 a.m. club is placed at 1. Why is it saying 1? This is the 0th index. This is the first index. Correct? Let's say I made a mistake. 5 a.m. or let's say I put it 9 a.m. club. Some of you are 9 a.m. people, right? You wake up at 9 a.m., right? So let's see whether that's part of the favorite books or not. Now, I'm trying to search a string in a list that is not available. Correct? So when I try to hit it, it will, what index will it give me? It will give me -1. Because this particular element does not exist, index of will tell it's not 0, it's not 1, it's not any value, but it's -1. So when it gives -1, you can be sure that the item that you are trying to search is not in the list. Okay, so let's see debug only, it's giving -1. Make sense? Awesome. So that was index of. If you have the element in the list, it will give the index of that position. If you don't have it, it will give -1. All right, so just by these 2 or 3 different list variables, we are able to understand a lot of methods that list provides. However, I'll encourage you to look at 3, 4, or 5 more methods in this particular list. Just open your um, list developer Apex reference guide and look at some of the other methods and try to understand. And you can just click on one of the methods and read more about it. Okay, and let me just give you one more example, which is important. Okay, the contains method. So if you want to check whether your list contains a specific key or not, okay, the previous one was index of. What does that return? That returns the index where the element is placed, correct? But you have another method that's called contains. It returns true or false. If element is there, it will return true. If element is not there, it will return false. All right, how to use this method? Let's see. I have a string. Let's say your favorite book is Harry Potter. Okay, and I want to check whether this is my favorite book also. So what can I do? I can simply say system.debug. I'll say my favorite books dot contains your favorite book. So I'm saying, does my list contain your favorite book? It will either return true or false. Let's see. I'll just try to save it and I'll try to execute. So does my favorite book contain Harry Potter? No, so it will give me false because contains gives you either true or false. False. But what if your favorite book was, let's say, the Four Agreements? If it was the Four Agreements, it would give true because yes, there's a book that is something that's favorite for both of us. So it will return true. Let's see the debug log. True. All right. If we were to quickly use if condition, I would show you how this looks like. So if my favorite books dot contains your favorite book, system.debug, yay, we have a book in common. Else system.debug, can I borrow your book? So you see, this is how you would use the contains method in an if condition for your scenario. So if your list contains this element variable, you run this particular section of code, or else you run this particular section of code. So that's a use case. All right. Awesome. That was all about lists. All right. What I want you to do is, what I would encourage you to do is look at the methods in the Apex reference guide, or just try to play around with these methods and in your own variables. Okay. Just create 2 or 3 more variables. Keep it like, decimal, currency, date. Try to play with the certain data types, plain data types, primitive data types. You don't have to do account for now. Okay. Don't worry about account, contact, list of leads. Don't do all of that stuff for now. Just plain collection. Okay, we'll reach to that level also, but for now, if you are new to collections, just create 3 4 collection variables. Try to use these 4 5 methods that we discussed, and then you should be good. Okay, awesome. Now we'll move on to sets.